On my journey to become the best version of myself during quarantine, I interviewed guests who gave their life experiences and expertise on love to finances and everything in between. Join me to learn a thing or two on becoming the best version of you with Gigi Show.
Again, I am G, and this is Becoming the Best Version of G. And I am so honored and privileged to have these two gentlemen join us this evening. We have Andre Ebron on mic number one. And then we have, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And we have Brother Nixon over there. Delvin Nixon, and we're going to learn more about who they are and what they do in the community, and how they feel and what their experiences is, if they like to share on the state of Black America and the state of America as it currently is right now. I was going to introduce them, but I told them that I would not do them justice by introducing them, because they are some awesome dudes, and I don't want to miss anything in their description. So we'll start off with Brother Ebron. So who are you, Mr. Ebron?
Well, first, let me say to G, thank you for organizing this panel for this very important conversation in the context of how our current climate seems to be unrolling itself. I see that Brother Dr. Red is just I told them that I almost went and put on my three-piece suit because I heard you would be on the call. But I chose, to keep the T-shirt lit for Jesus for the young people. All right, so yeah,
there you go, man.
But yeah, so again, as I was saying to G, thank you for organizing this. Who am I? I am a husband. I am a son. I am a brother. I am an uncle. I am a man within my community who is deeply concerned with making sure we speak truth to power, ensuring that our people are getting the proper information, as well as ensuring that there's equity, diversity, and inclusion in all the approaches in the environments where I happen to have influence. So I'm a Dean of Culture and Climate for Detroit Public Schools Community District. I've been serving in that capacity now, going on my third year. But I also am a business owner, Ebron and Associates, a consulting firm where we consult, develop, and support personal, professional, and organizational transformation. That work takes me into various communities to inspire, motivate, and transform, to basically help people restructure. I like to say we coach the gaps, right? So where do you desire to be? Where are you currently now? How can we develop a strategic and intentional plan that gets you where you desire to go? Number one, prioritizing customer service and adding intrinsic value to the people that you desire to impact. And then I also am a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ at Kano's International Church. I'm going to give you the address and everything to my pastor, the chief apostle, Dr. Carol E. Dixon. We are at 6650 West 4th Street, and my pastor just recently celebrated 46 years in full-time ministry. So I am excited to be a part of that work, and I got my hand involved in a little bit of everything in the community. But when you talk about who I am, you get a chance to see that evidence in the work that I am committed to.
Wow! See, I could have never introduced you like that.
Yes,
Okay, so Mr. Red, thank you again for joining us, brother. I'm glad you got connected in. Praise God for wives. Praise God for wives. Did you hear that?
Oh yeah.
I know what I was doing.
I know y'all got some good ones.
Absolutely.
So what we're doing, Mr. Red, is I'm just going around introducing you guys to let everybody know who's on mic number 1, 2, and 3. And I was telling them that I was going to introduce you all, but I would not do I would do a disservice if I introduced you. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the liberty of introducing yourself. So we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Nixon over there. Who are you, Mr. Nixon?
Come on down. Wow, Delvis Nixon. Well, who am I? First and foremost, I'm a believer. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and every day I'm getting better. Right, I'm working at it. So number one, I'm a husband as well. Wonderful, beautiful wife, Tamika Nixon. We have a wonderful life together. So that's at the top. And I'd say, other than that, I'm a Christian. I'm a Kingdom Business Association minister. Graduated from KBA in 2005 through Workplace Wisdom Institute, and that's through William Tyndale College, formerly William Tyndale College. I'm the CEO of Fresh Nation Inc. We teach kids broadcast and communication soft skills throughout the state of Michigan. And we've taught our 1,400 students this past spring. We've, of course, gone completely virtual since, of course, the COVID-19 era, but we're doing well. But I'm a life coach, and I help a lot of adults, in their careers, workplace wisdom. We have a program called the Inside Out program, which helps people to improve and reach their elevation breakthrough points in their lives. So that's one of the things that we do. And so that's wonderful. My website is freshnation.net for youth. So we have some upcoming camps for students, some tremendous camps for students, virtual camps, but they're interactive. So students will be in their homes throughout Metro Detroit. On freshnation.net, once again, is the site, so you can always go there to register. And once again, there's a ton of camps that we have, virtual camps, but they're very interactive. And so parents who are tired of their kids being at home, tired of kids not being in school during the COVID era, we have the answer for you. Because when they get involved in our program, the students that were involved in our program this spring, they were engrossed. We had the highest engagement levels of any school. We have schools calling us now because the students are so engaged in the program and how we roll our program out and involved. We believe in physiology, and physiology is a part of every single thing we do. It doesn't make sense to have a curriculum or principles to teach people without physiology. As I'm on this call today, I like to stand up. So you may see me stand up on the call because it really makes a difference on how you receive information. So anyway, that's a little bit of who I'm about. I'm an entrepreneur as well. So I'm an investor in things. And last but not least, I'm a political candidate. I'm part of the Democratic National Committee here in Michigan. And so I'm doing that as well. And I'm also running as well for a precinct delegate in the area that I live in District 11. And that's about it.
Wow. Once again.
My Dick Vitale moment is up. For those of you who are sports fans. Some baby with a capital A. But that's about it. Glad to meet you.
Right.
Glad to meet you, Papa brother. And of course, having you on the line, being a dear friend of my wife and I. So thanks for inviting me to be on the call today.
Absolutely. And once again, y'all see I got some heavyweights on here. That's why I asked each one of these brothers to join us. And as you can see, that's why I'm having them introduce themselves, because I couldn't have said all of that either. So not to last but not least at all, we got Brother Red over there. So who are you, Mr. Red? Run it down for us.
See, that's a hard question. I'm trying to be deep like these brothers. I'm like, who am I? Let me see. I'm Shirley's husband. I'm Ian's dad. I'm Tyronia's son. I'm Emma's grandchild, and blah, 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 blah. I'm a child of God. I'm a mentor. I'm a man. I'm a servant. And that's funny. I'm listening to the brothers talk, and everybody's saying the same thing more or less. But I've been in search of that question, Queen Mary, for a long time. Who am I? And I realize I'm really, with all these titles that we might have, author, entrepreneur, businessman, I really strive to be two things: a man of God, somebody that you can say he's well pleased with, and a servant. And I figured it out. That's what it comes down to. I'm gonna serve God, I'm gonna be a child of God, and I'm gonna be a servant. And I look at all these titles and I think, man, we do a lot, but this COVID has convinced me we're really not that busy. Because when he said sit down, we sat down. We sat down. So yes, I'm a teacher. Been teaching for 22 years at Cornerstone Schools. I'm a drama teacher at this point, history teacher. But more than anything, I just want to say I am a child of God and I'm a servant to those in need. Like these brothers here, get involved in community service. As a matter of fact, went downtown this past Saturday for the Juneteenth celebration that started at the Fox Theater. So that was powerful. Had to kneel for 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yeah.
We get that later. That's a long time, brother.
Yes. Yeah.
Another long time.
Yeah.
But I write plays and I do poetry, and I just finished my first book. And so I'll put that out on something else because this is not that format. But just
no, y'all can all plug what y'all doing. Go right ahead.
I'm cool with it. You know,
Okay.
it's yeah, I'm good with that. I got a format for that, and I'll be talking about that all the time. But I'm just happy, Sister Queen Mary, that you invited me to be amongst these brothers. I don't know this brother here, but I'm sure I'll get to know him. Definitely know my brother Ebron over there. We go way back, you know. And I was thinking the same thing, brother Ebron, so we can get into it. This brother have on the suit because I'm in the house.
Right.
And that was my kids even ask me, you wear a suit in the shower? Do you wear a suit in the summertime? I'm chilling. And the only reason for this hat to the back, because I got an afro. I'm looking like Link Hayes from the Mod Squad. So we ain't gonna do all of that right now. Give the Mod Squad, man.
Before your time, man.
I don't believe you. Take it off.
Mod Squad before your time, brother. Unless you watch
What you say?
So the Mod Squad before your time, right? You watch TV Land, right?
I figured I'd do that. So thank you, brothers and Queen Mary. Happy to be here with the brothers.
Thank you. Thank you guys once again. I appreciate you taking the time out to join us this evening. I really do from the bottom of my heart. And I hand selected both of you, and the Lord gave me Mr. Nixon today. So I'm excited that he was able to jump right in. I was on a Zoom call also right before, that's why I'm a couple of minutes late. That I had to finish up, and then we all wear so many hats as you all just described. So it's all about that multitasking, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's jump right on into it. This nation a hot mess right now. I'm sure you all would agree. And I did a show. Let me explain why, because I don't know if you guys know why I'm doing this. The Lord put it on my heart to start a show called Becoming the Best Version of G. I'm sorry, Becoming the Best Version of You with G. And he put it on my heart because as Brother Red, was on a journey of getting to know who I am and what my purpose was and why God created me and what he wanted me to do while I was here, And so I lost a young man, a brother, a dear, dear friend of mine to COVID-19 while we were on lockdown that I went to college with. And it broke my heart. It truly did. And it made me realize how valuable life is and how short it is and how we have to take advantage of however long we have here and do God's work and his will and give back and share what we've learned so that we can leave a legacy or at least our footprints on the world when the Lord do call us home. And so while I've been on lockdown, I said, well, Lord, what would you have me to do during this time? How can I be a blessing to other people? And this was the platform that he gave me. I did not want to do it. I was nervous. Well, y'all know my mouth. So y'all know I didn't talk in crowds of 100 or so because of our past lives of work. And so, but I don't know what it was, but in this platform, I was so nervous. I mean, boots shaking nervous I guess because I was sharing from my own heart and sharing from my own life. So on my show, I share lessons that I have learned along my journey, and hopefully it can bless other people. And so that's why we're here, I believe, is to share our experiences with each other, and hopefully it can benefit the next man or the next woman. And so because of the nature of all of this, last week I I did a show speaking from the heart of how I felt and what my experiences were being a Black female. And it was very emotional. I didn't realize that I was bottling all of that stuff up. I didn't know I was affected that much. But after you watch all of these videos and you listen to social media and you read all of these articles, you know, it can become overwhelming, actually quite frightening, you know, that this world is kind of dark right now. You know, I feel like the enemy, he just busy, you know. And so I can't relate to hate, you know, and I know you brothers can't either. And so after I did that, the Lord put it on my heart to let's talk to the brothers. You know, what's your feelings and what is your experiences, and I just wanted to hear from you in a different way that other platforms haven't heard from your type of brother. Okay. And so that's why we're here, and that's why you were hand selected and invited. So I appreciate you. Like I said, I really do. And I won't hold you too long, but let's talk about the state of Black America and how we got here. I kind of want to start here and kind of go backwards. And last time I went backwards and went forward. But since we're here at the present moment and we're here because of, you know, George Floyd, honestly, I said in my last video that he broke the camel's back, you know, that, you know, enough was enough, you know, across the nation. And that is what was surprising to me, was to see the world respond to what happened here. You know, it was amazing to see the support of brown, yellow, white, you know, and all nationalities. I mean, in some cases outnumbering us or equivalent to us, marching with us, you know, some peaceful and some not so much. And we'll get into that. So anybody can take this question. When you saw the video, what were your thoughts?
So I'll jump in. For me, it was hurtful. For me, I was angry. I was upset. But being raised by a Marine, my mom, she said, whenever you feel those feelings, immediately start processing and start thinking. And so as I'm watching the video, I'm watching what looks like a commissioned hit, an assassination. I'm wondering why this person, if you watch the video, he's so composed during the process, the person who's committing the harm. I have greed at the root of it, where if you want to talk about saying George Floyd had some type of counterfeit dollar, when I think about how Black and brown bodies have been commodified and monetized from our arrival to this nation, of what type of value, what can we earn from commodifying or monetizing this Black or brown body. I watched this man with his hands in his pockets, and I watched his counterparts circling him as if they knew they were awaiting his death. I watched how they strategically placed his knee on his neck and waited with his hands in his pockets. And it looked like kids who were stealing for the first time, on lookout for ensuring no one interrupted the process. And until his death, they sat on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and lifted his lifeless body with reckless disregard onto a gurney while people filmed and watched this man. And I said, you know, the only reason that this was able to occur in the presence of other people is because there's a system of oppression that okays the mistreatment and the dehumanization of Black men. That is exactly the only reason that this was able to occur in broad daylight. What could cause a person employed by a system in the middle of a street in broad daylight to take another person's life and feel empowered to do so? Because if you ask me, I don't have any data to back this up, but this was something he was commissioned to do.
I'm gonna jump in on that real quick, brother. When I saw it, and we definitely, brother Nixon, myself, and I'm sure we all share being black, being a black man. You could not look at that video, and I didn't know where to go with the emotion. What got me was the calling out of his mother. For me, that was just so maternal because I made jokes about it. You know, as black men, black fathers, I think Chris Rock, one of my favorite comedians, talked about it years ago. Dads never really get the respect. All we get is the big piece of chicken. But I'm thinking when you win the Super Bowl, I'm going to shout out to my mother. I want to say this to my mother and my mother because it's so spiritual about returning back to that womb. And here is for me, and I've seen a lot. We've all seen a lot. And I'm going to say I didn't start waking up, get conscious until Rodney King. What was that, 91, 92? And at that point for me, it was, I'm done with the system. I don't believe in justice. I don't believe in legal representation. I'm done with the system after Rodney King. So everything leading up to this, everything in between from Amadou Diallo to Eric Gardner to Mike Brown to Trayvon to Sandra Bland, everything between this for me is, as Brother Ibrahim just said, is normal. It's normal because we don't even see him as human. This man was too calm. He was too relaxed. And I say this, had it been any other group of people, you couldn't have done that to a Jewish individual. You wouldn't have done it to an Asian individual. You wouldn't have done it to anybody, but you can do it to Negroes. You can do it to black folk. And to have these people standing around as if you don't even matter. Well, you got your camera, but that doesn't matter to us because this is what we do to you. So for the first time, I choked up because at this point, it was, this is ridiculous. This is beyond comprehensible. And I watched it, man. And as a black man, and if you got sons, you're looking at your sons and you're like, wow. And I'm going to say this so Brother Nixon can jump in. When Obama got elected, President Obama got elected in 2008, it was like it broke the glass ceiling. We could all relate to, you could be a doctor's son and you could be a lawyer, you could be this, but president, you say that, somebody would think, man, you out your mind, shut up. That's in the movies. So when Barack came in, that broke the glass ceiling for me. George Floyd took it back, 1850. I say it went from the lynching of the tree to now it's the bending of the knee. It's a modern day lynching. And whether or not they trying to decide whether or not is it premeditated, once a man taps out, I'm subdued, then it becomes, I don't care. That is first degree murder all day long. That is first degree murder. You get to even tap out in wrestling. I quit, let me up. But your hands behind your back. So I'm outraged, man. But I'm gonna say this, Brother Nixon, real quick. I'm not happy that he got charges. What I focus on is, will he be convicted? We see a whole bunch of charges. It took me back to 92. We thought that was blatant. Rodney King, oh, they're going to jail. They're going to jail. When they walked, I was done. And we got so many cases where they don't go to jail. So I'm outraged. Brother Nixon.
Woo, man. Yeah. You guys said together. I mean, that really puts it together. I mean, I could add a couple things to it because I agree with both of you, everything. For me, the emotion was always at the top, of course, the initial emotion of, the dehumanization of him. And then it just took me back to even going back 400 years to slavery and coming back. It was really a strategy that to eliminate this black man anyway, to weaken the black man. And so this tearing down of the black man, there is what I call an image that's hate. It's this degrees of hate to, I believe, young black males anyway. And so I think in law enforcement, there's separate conversations going on that have gone on over the years where it has been widely accepted to dehumanize this outside cover because they're not all the same and they all got their different reasons. And we all know from areas from economic injustice to all the other forms of injustice and opportunity, playing field not being level. And I'm not making excuses for not being bootstrappers and things that, we've all had to do. But at the same time, everyone doesn't have that same mentor or that community or that village that we all had. At least for me, I was part of a village. I was part of a neighborhood where a neighbor could literally put the whip on me before they sent me home and got a second whipping. I grew up in that. So that being said, for those young men who didn't get that, it is what it is. And so the system has kind of allowed this for me. We just happen to catch something that's been going on for a long time in these 400 years. And so it just got caught on tape. Mm-hmm. So to me, I believe in percentages. So I thought about that and I said, okay, after I got through the emotion, what can we learn from this? What can happen that can be a game changer for us? And it happened for me when I've seen this melting pot of people, this community, because all these young folks, and I call them young folks, so they're a lot younger than me. Although there's some that are there, there's some Gen X's. Gen X is a part of it, for the most part of the numbers that you see out there, from an X to a Gen X, and then you see a few boomers, but it's primarily Gen X and millennials that are dominating, the majority of millennials that have finally come to the point where enough was enough for them. It's funny, my wife and I were talking about this, and we've talked about this off and on. What is it going to take for this generation to wake up? Because they're so far detached. We should tell them about stories and things that happened to us and our grandfolks, and they couldn't relate. Like, oh yeah, y'all talking about all that MLK stuff, and they were just kind of dismissing it. And so they kind of had, for them, their modern day, wow, that's their moment. Like, we got to change something. So that's what I see. And it's a melting pot because a lot of them grew up with each other. White and black, they don't see, they got it better than us when it comes to integration. Mm-hmm. And integration is really impacted them at a high level, because you kill one of these black men now, you killing a cat that's part of an interracial family, So, and so it's a lot of that going on. He might have a daughter or somebody like that from because they together. So I say all that to say that the image of this young hip hop, and I'm going to say is a high percentage, there's a profile that I think policemen hate. And that the blue code is part of it too. That's why you find even some African American officers that kind of turn a little bit of the cheek a little bit with the roughness of it. Okay, not all of them, but it is a blue thing mixed in with this image. And so this image is like, you doing this and you're doing that, and you got here for whatever reason you got here. I want to take you out. I don't know, you counterfeited, you did this, you did that, I'm going to take you out. So I think that's what they dehumanize. So for me, I'm thinking, what can we learn from this? And that's kind of where I kind of come in. I don't want to take all the time on this, but it kind of leads to a lot of things that God has had me do over the years, and this kind of opportunity is met for me. And I feel like we can do a whole lot more to keep that down until we get this change in policing taken care of, until we get policing to live in the communities that they serve, until we can get all that change. Like Detroit doesn't have it as bad as many. And I don't care what you hear, what's going on now lately. There's a few things you're hearing about, but for the most part, Detroit police officers historically have come from the community. But that's not the same in Minnesota and Missouri and all these other places. For the most part, we have it different. So
that's where Mr. Nixon, that's actually where I want to, you opened the door to my next question to you guys about the police department. So thank you for segueing into that. Do you guys think that, first of all, what charges, do you think that all of them should be charged the same? Do you feel that somebody should have, and I probably can answer this myself, but do you feel that the officers should have stopped, and could they have stopped it? I don't know, but do you feel that they could have done more? And do you feel that they're just as guilty? Anybody can take that.
If you don't mind, let's make it real simple. If I'm in the car with my partner and he's a dope dealer, he has the gun on him, he has the drugs on him, I'm going to jail. I might not get the same amount of time that he gets, but I'm going to jail and I'm going to get some time. Hence the word accessory. So I'm a school teacher. If I see another school teacher, and we know there's a lot of young men that will try to you in today's system of education, they're gonna get in your face, whatever. If I got a young student step into my partner's face and they go at it and my partner's getting the best of me, my mindset realistically, like, all right, that's what he needs. Sometimes you need to knock a young brother out. However, if I see my partner has this young man, he has this young man in the chokehold, I'm like, okay, now, brother, you're doing too much. Let him go. You have to speak from a point of view, from a perspective of being human. You got to be human. And if they don't see you as human, then hence this is what's going to occur. So I believe, as Brother Ebron and Brother Nixon said, if they don't see you as human, then all of that humanity goes out the door. Killing this is like killing a cat. It makes no difference to me. The calmness of the situation, they're walking around, he got his hands in his pocket, like, and my man is, I can't breathe, and your partners are walking around, that means they didn't see him as human as well. I just met Brother Nixon, and I know Brother Ebron, we can't hang out together, and I see you about to take a life, and I say nothing, then that means I know the charges won't be the same, but they should definitely get charged. And it should definitely be jail time, prison time for everybody. That's vetting in itself.
Yeah, I agree. So when we look at what is the moral imperative of the oath that they've taken to protect and serve, and so just because I am caught in what they may have perceived a criminal act does not forfeit my right to due process. And so when you choose to violate the laws and the oaths that govern what it is that you have vowed to serve and protect, that is your position. So that's why everybody is not a judge. That's why everybody is not a lawyer. That's why everybody shouldn't be a police officer, because it takes a certain level of discretion, ethics, and morals to operate within those capacities. I understand my degree is actually in criminal justice and psychology. I have a concentration of agency administration, law enforcement, and forensic psychology. And one of the things that they do into those interviews to become an officer is a behavioral interview. Should this situation happen, how would you respond to this? Taking the psychological, putting you in certain positions where there was questions asked of me, should this happen, would you be willing to take a life? Are you? And in one situation, I guess my answer was, it was not satisfactory, because the interview process stopped right then when it came to that question. And my answer, my response is that I have to only match force with force. That's the law. I can only match with force. Me as a citizen, I can't apply deadly force when I'm not being confronted with that type of force. And so you as an officer, armed with not just the weaponry, but you're supposed to be armed with the teaching and the training, the ability to subdue without taking a life, and listening to all of the data that's out there about how that maneuver that is being performed on him is not something that they are taught and trained to exercise. Any officer that doesn't stop another officer from committing a crime is complicit and responsible for the actions that take place after that. I am sensitive only because I know so many officers. I understand the stress that is associated with that work. When you talk about normalizing dysfunction and trauma as a daily thing that you digest, I get that. I understand that. But I know many more officers that have elected to not take that role because they are truly invested and concerned with their community. And so for one to tell me that you could not help it, I don't just beg to differ. I take a righteous stance of indignation to say, no, you are still responsible for what you've chosen to do.
Most definitely.
Thank you. Nixon?
Yeah. And they're going to have to account for what they've done no matter what. And we know at the end of the day, there's accountability.
I think people forget about that.
That's a whole, an unsaved people in the workplace. And that's one of the reasons why that was one of the degrees I decided to get with my other 4-year degrees, from Georgetown to Western. But the best one to me was the ministry degree, because I learned a lot about the workplace but the unsaved in the workplace. But what I want to say is about how they should be charged, your original question. I think whatever the law will allow. Because the issue is police have always had these protections and this gray area that they've been able to wean through for so many years. And when they're threatened, it's just like, oh, I felt threatened. Trayvon Martin, when I felt threatened, even though he wasn't an officer,
Right.
the community guy that just killed a black man, a young black male, and got away with it because he felt like he was he was threatened and they had to stand your ground law. But at the end of the day, I feel like I want whatever the law will allow. I think second degree is probably about the best they're going to be able to do. First degree is going to be hard to prove based on how it's interpreted, and you're going to put a jury. It's like you have the community and the emotion of it all, and we all are part of the emotion. But then we don't want to have all this emotion tied into pressing the prosecution to put such a high charge for us to feel good at the moment to get an acquittal. So we got to think about what's the best way for them to get some time in, because life in the lecture chair is not happening, and I hate to say it. So if these unsaved officers who did what they did and treated my fellow brother the way they did and killed this man, if they get 15, 20, whatever, whatever can be allowed with no, then that's probably the expectation. I feel in terms of the aiding and abetting. I've been on a jury in my life a few times, and I had a couple cases where it was one of those aiding and abetting type things where you had people who was just a drive man or the drive girl, driving, and they didn't necessarily do the rest of the stuff, but they had knowledge of it and they supported and they aided in it. And I feel like those gentlemen, the other officers aided in it, and they should do time as well. So I think it's going to be tough depending on who the defense attorney is going to be. Lord knows, I hope it's not that guy that defended Trayvon, defended George Zimmerman, because he's satanic with his strategy. But short of somebody, or opposite of that, Johnny Cochran, the late Johnny Cochran, you don't want nobody that good because they poke reasonable doubt in it. But at the end of the day, I believe that we need to get at least what we can get, 15 years, whatever, for the main man here who did most of it, and then the other guys, we can get a decade out of it. I love it, but it's gonna be tight to get that too. But I said they got to do something for it, man. It's tough. It's a tough call, but we got to get what we can get based on what the law allows. We don't need an acquittal, and we can't. If we go first degree, I think we'll lose it.
If I can jump in, Queen Mary, as the brothers are talking, the blurred line begins to come into question when it's police officers. And we all know police officers. I got brothers that are police officer partners. So we're not talking about all police officers. Mm-hmm. Just like I think, Queen Mary, you said some earlier, when we look at it from a spiritual perspective, this is not just black and white either. Let's be real. This is good versus evil. What is righteous and what is unjust. Because we cannot negate abolitionists during the moment of the railroad. You can't say all white people this. That's like putting all black people in one category. No, you got to say those who are unjust in their heart, those who are not righteous. We want to get rid of those who are evil, those who are not here to protect and serve. So you can't go in so blinded with hatred that you also forget about humanity as a whole. Because, I love television and I love gangster movies, but is that to signify that all Italian Americans are in the mafia? Not at all. All cops are not bad, but those who continuously snuff out a life simply because he happens to be in this black suit, we just want to see some justice done, and we want fair play across that justice board.
Do you think there will come a day where the police, and I said that in my last video last week, that there is no catch-all phrase. You can't say that all black people are bad people. You can't say, like you said, all white people are bad people. It is good versus evil. It truly is. And so even with cops, there are good cops and there are bad cops. There are racist cops or evil
Christians and then good Christians. It's all
right.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that some from this situation, since it seems like the world is watching and looking and paying more attention than they have been, do you think that the police system will be reformed? And if so, what would be the ideal reforming? Like, what do you think needs to be tweaked, changed, or adjusted that would be fair?
Vote. Number one, vote. So first of all, we need to vote in all elections. We got to really study people locally. I'm not even talking about, because that's the first thing we need to do. We need to get people in office, because a lot of power when it comes to police reform does lie in local mayors, state level, local level, and a lot of it's there. President Obama put a great plan together for local law enforcement to make changes, and they did not. And that's why I'm saying, and one of the stances I take as a person who's in politics and who's working in this realm here, I really don't think we hold enough of our own. When we say we, African Americans who happen to be democratic people or independents or what have you, we don't hold enough African Americans accountable who we vote in office. And I think we've let a lot of stuff slide based on name, and I'm not going to name no names, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to people that may no longer be with us, but we've had Black people who've represented us for 30, 40 years in districts, and we just give them a pass and just buy that. And I don't think we push them enough. And I just think we need to start a whole new thing about how we push people that we put in places locally and state. And it's going to take some help. Thank God I have a background in broadcasting and media before I started my companies. And I'm going to be a part of some things where we're going to hold people accountable on local levels on what they campaigned on and what they actually did. And so we can keep them more accountable and put the pressure on them so we start pushing people through. And because I think that's the key to all of this. Let's vote. Let's flip stuff. We got to flip local seats where we need to. We got to flip, of course, state, Senate, national level, House, and everything. We need to flip. Well, House, we good. We got to keep that. We need to flip the Senate. We need to, of course, we got to get this White House flipped around. We lost all these precincts in the state of Michigan by 2 votes per precinct. 2. So what we got to do is we got to just keep the pressure on, forget the polls, don't worry about what they're saying nationally. He's up by 12 points. It's a lot of things you can't pay attention to. So to answer your question, we got to vote, number one. We got to get these young folks to vote. We can't let them do what they did to Bernie Sanders, running against Joe. I see a tree in here. Oh, we like Bernie. He says education. Then they don't vote for the man. I'm not saying I favored either one. I'm just saying they didn't vote for him. And that's not good. You didn't support the person you said you liked. So I got young people in my family that said they love Bernie, but they didn't vote. They wouldn't go out and vote for him. Oh, I got busy, I got charged. So we got to change up. We got to get enough of these young millennials to get out and vote. And we got to get some of these X's and these Gens and all those other folks that's in our group. We got to get them to stop being so busy because a lot of them get busy. And you'd be surprised how many folks in our generation that forget stuff or don't go out and vote.
And that's no excuse for me. We know better.
And that, to me, we vote, but we can do a lot right there to keep a vote and be accountable. That's what I'm gonna say.
Hey, Brian, thank you.
Yeah, for me, it is about, of course, my people perish for a lack of what? A lack of knowledge. And so what we have to do is we have to not forsake the oral traditions which sustain us. And so it's time for us to continue to have these conversations, because it is difficult to encourage someone to move beyond their own schedule if you're not connected to them relationally. So there are certain things that children who are connected to me, they will do just out of respect because Mr. Ebron said it, right? But now this generation Z, Gen Z, they are not having it. They have access to more information. And so what happens is when you put somebody on information overload and they don't have the wisdom to navigate the information they have, it begins to make them paralytic, right? So it's one of those things where I have so much information and I understand how the system works. I've lost confidence in the system because I have direct representation based upon who my president is, that my vote can be hijacked. I have lost confidence in the system that was supposed to support us. The system that's supposed to support us is allowing police officers to kill black men in broad daylight. And so it's about teaching. So it is extremely important to vote, but it is through our oral traditions of understanding the life and the sacrifice. And people ask me, why do I continue to vote? Why do I continue to participate? I said, even though sometimes I may have I don't have confidence in the system, my liberty and my freedoms and my privilege that I enjoy is soaked with the blood of my ancestors who fought for us to do that.
That's right.
So on the strength of their lives, because my privilege is based upon, privilege doesn't come without sacrifice. And so my privilege is hinged on their sacrifice. I'll do my part to vote. But I think we have to get back to, as my brother was saying, we got to get back to those village days where, because I've heard it all, and I'm sure these brothers have as well. We got a lot of older people who stop talking because they feel like the young people are not listening. And I grew up in a time where, and I grew up around, I'm a millennial, but I grew up where, I know y'all say, are you? Yes, I'm a millennial, right? I grew up around a lot of elders. And so there was one thing in my circle where you had to earn the right to speak. And it wasn't because they wanted to suppress your voice, is that your voice was so important that they wanted to make sure you had the proper knowledge base. So when you spoke, it would be powerful and people would stop and listen to what you had to say. You're not just running off at the mouth. Mm-hmm. And so now what I believe is we have to get back to indoctrinating our children to think for themselves. And when we teach them to think for themselves, we empower them to the point that they'll choose to go vote.
These two brothers actually brought it together. When you think about that question, you mentioned Queen Mary. How do you change the mindset or what a perspective of humanity from a police officer's point of view? It does go back to vote, but that voting goes back to oral traditions. That oral tradition goes back to the elders being willing to share those stories. And this is the reason why you should vote. When I look at, I'm a big movie buff when it comes to movies about brothers like, let me see, Spike Lee doing this thing. And I'm watching this documentary series now on Don Cornelius and Soul Train. I love anything, with guys that were movers and shakers. But you have to realize when you look at these new jacks coming up and making music and able to get your CD in the door, and everything you do is because somebody cracked that door open for you. So it not only comes down to voting and oral traditions, it comes down to social responsibility. As a teacher, last summer I had a lunch with 3 of my former students, and it was so surreal because they're all 22 years old, and I had them, they were 4 years old. So I'm sitting there looking at them like, wow, this is mind blowing. One of them happened to go to Bethune-Cookman College. And she said when she got there, she could answer a lot of those questions about her history. And she attributed most of that to Mr. Red, because in my classroom, I'm going to give it to you. I don't care if you're 4 years old. Give it to them. You might think they're not listening, but sometimes we older people get stuck in that. They don't listen to nobody anyway. Tell them anyway. Mm-hmm. Tell them anyway, because just like we didn't listen to our parents, you're going to come to a point during that travel in your life where you go, wow, I get it now. This is why grandma told me to clean up. This is why she got up and went to work every day. So when we all have a responsibility to make sure young people know they have a responsibility. If you are in this country and you are Black in this country, you have a responsibility, whether you want to act like, and I get tired of hearing Black celebrities and athletes go, I'm not a role model. Yeah, you are. The moment they brought your gym shoe, wore your shirt, they did it because they are watching you. So you have to walk the righteous walk. So we have a responsibility to get back, to educate. And one thing I will close with, this whole George Floyd, I think Queen Mary, you mentioned, was a straw that broke the camel's back. Never before have we seen statues coming down, symbols of racism coming down, because all
NASCAR was like wow to me.
Exactly. And
The
I always
Confederate flag.
question black folk in this regard. Why is it that we should wake up now and tear down those things? You hear people, white people, some might say, well, that was 400 years ago, just get over it. But you would never tell a Jewish American to get over the Holocaust.
Right.
You're never going to tell Asians
Right.
to forget about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You never tell the indigenous Native Americans, forget about Columbus. Why do they tell us to forget about it? Because we sit back and deal with it. We will go to institutions named after those who opposed and oppressed us. And why do we do that? So I look at this movement like somebody just woke up, and they should tear. We can't ask America to forget about things when we're constantly bombarded and inundated with racist symbols. You got to get that out the way, because then America will have an opportunity to live out her true creed. We're talking about the Constitution coming up. Where were we? That's another conversation. 3/5 of a human being. Come on. 47 out of 55 delegates were slave owners. Come on. All I'm saying is wake up. Spike Lee said it best. Wake up.
So, guys, do you think that, and this is great conversation.
In the movie School Days.
Wake
Oh,
up.
right. Right.
Wake up.
Right. That's what I felt the other day. I felt like I woke up too, honestly. You know, it opened my eyes. I was telling Brother Ebron and Brother Nixon that it opened my eyes to want to learn more about my history.
Well, that's
to want to learn more about my culture and to learn more about our ancestors. And to be honest with you, I can't even go all the way back and deal with that, because it tears me up to think about.
Okay, don't do that. Don't do that.
I guess the visual and just thinking about what they had to go through. It's just the evil behind it. I will never comprehend.
That's where we mess up, Mary. We mess up because, put it this way, and this is not for profit. Got a partner who does t-shirts. So I took a picture of Dr. King kneeling, and right next to him was a picture of Brother Kaepernick, who should be back in the NFL. Then there's that picture of shaving when he's on Brother George Floyd's neck. And my wife and other people like, you shouldn't show that. Because you know what? You should show that. Because if you show it, it is a constant reminder to black folk as a whole, black men in general, your black son coming up. This happened here in America. This did not happen.
I'm not trying to. I mean, it did happen. I'm just saying the emotional piece of it.
Get emotional, then
you know. And when I see the news and them trying to bring that, it's overwhelming.
Be overwhelmed. You'll wake up.
It goes back to the how to channel emotion, and what I see two types of responses. I see one response of those, and I used to get this over the years when Roots would come on every year, and they, I can't watch that no more, and because individuals don't know how to channel
exactly
the emotion of what took place.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately,
how do you channel?
The adversary is the black clown. See, here's the issue. We've been haunted by the black clown through all these 400 years. And what I mean by that is to tap dance and to you're a movie buff, right? So you remember the character of Senator Anderson in Roots? He was a real person. But he said, you can't get when slavery was verbally over, you can't get them one way, old red rabbit. If you can't get them one way, you get them another way.
Another way, right.
So my point is, the black clown was a device. First of all, it was to show black men all of the various coping devices, tobacco and all this other stuff. So get them caught up into all of that to kind of tear the body down quicker. Number two, the other race, white women or whatever, and there was stuff that went with that from a health perspective. And that's a lot of doctors. I'm not a doctor, but I know a lot about what they tell me. Number two, to get us caught up into entertainment so much, this medium that I've been a part of in media for so many years, that it gets us unfocused off of what's most important.
Mm-hmm.
That's why our kids have come up, most of them, which I get in my program, they're so out of touch because the parents were trying to be their friends, best friends, and not push the stuff like you said, brother. You got to put that in their head anyway, because you put it in their heart and you put that in there anyway. Kids got a way, when they start getting older, they remember and they'll say, how many of us got that story? They used to tell me this, and I finally got it and I did it. So we have to keep bringing it, brother. You're right. You got to keep bringing it to them. That knowledge, you got to keep bring it to them, but we got to find a way to do it with this Z. You got to use God's wisdom on how to deliver it to them. Develop that situation with them, that mentor-mentee thing, child, mother part, but you got to know how to deliver it. But at the end of the day, we got to bring it to them. You got to keep bringing it. Because entertainment has hurt our people so bad that they will not go vote because of their watching something or they overstuck or a video game. And so our priorities have gotten so messed up over the years. I know folks that are not doing what they want to do in their lives, and I'm helping them rebuild because they were off track with entertainment on the wrong stuff. They got major debt they shouldn't have because they were so caught up in, they let entertainment and keeping up with the Joneses, that disease hurt them because they lost track of what was most important. So when we talk about priorities, that's where we fail. We talk about knowledge, let's talk about where we fail. So I just want to say that that's really the key to all of this. Is we talk about, we got to know how to channel this energy. We got to know emotion. Me and my wife and I talk about this all the time. Women, you guys can be a little more by nature, the way God created us, and we're a little more analytical. And bottom line is, but at the end of the day, women and men who get a little too wrapped up, you got to understand you have a responsibility because of our ancestors, my brother, to just understand. You got to know how to channel this into production for a better America, a better place that we built, by the way. So
absolutely. Brian, how do you think that we can be more productive?
Well, for me,
by channeling it.
To channel it. So I think the only way that we can truly channel what it is that we feel and keep our emotions in proper perspective is to learn the Word of God. Point blank, period. There is no conventional wisdom of men that can keep my emotions at bay. And any wisdom that is presented by man that is able to induce self-regulation is based upon the Word of God, whether they give him credit or not. And so here, as a black man, here's what I have to, as a Christian man who is black, right, is that I have to allow my spirituality to govern my ethnic response. If not, I would be out there tearing up stuff too. Let's just be very clear about this. And I think any brother who would disagree, I think I would like to have a private conversation where maybe some transparency.
Offline.
Yeah. Here's where we run the risk is that if my spirit doesn't govern my emotions, my soul, if my spirit doesn't govern my soul, then my mind, my will, and my emotions can only respond to the level of information that I have. And when an injustice is enacted upon me or people who represent and look like me, my soul immediately thinks retribution and payback. My spirit says that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, right? Because listen, for the people who are listening or on this call, I tell people from the block to the boardroom, the name is respect. And if you violate the principle of respect, that can cost you your life in the streets. If you violate that principle of respect in the boardroom, it can cost you your entire professional career.
Absolutely.
And so where I am as far as channeling and helping people be guided through their emotions, the only way that your emotions, your soulish realm doesn't overtake you is when your spiritual man has been fed to the point that whatever you think, feel, or believe has to run into the absolute truth, the highest form of reality, which is the Word of God.
Absolutely.
That was very awesome.
I mean,
you guys are giving
guys are not. I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's the foundation. We know that. So it's foundational to everything that we're talking about. Because then we know where it's coming from, the enemy, the attack, and your integrity, the integrity of God. So you don't want to break and loot because that's That's breaking God's principles. That's breaking a 10 commandment. I mean, it's a lot. It all boils down to God's word. Man has used parts of God's word anyway, just to give him credit. So even those who are out here and benefiting from God's principles, like diligence, is something God created. So my point is that it all boils down to the God's word. And it's our job to let Holy Ghost guide us into how to use that in our platforms to help get people closer. You know, the number one way to honor God in the workplace, most people think it's evangelism, but it's not. It's to dominate in your position. That's number one.
And it's to let your light shine so that people can be drawn to him.
In the workplace, which is what most people spend 70% of their lifetime in. See, the thing is, a lot of people don't know any better about God's word. They feel like, oh, I'll leave God at home and I go in the workplace and I act like the world. And then I come home and I do my 30% and go to church and all this other stuff. But no, God never intended you not to bring him to work with. It's how you bring him and the wisdom. And number one way to honor God in the workplace is to dominate in that position, outgrow that position. And that's one of my principles that I teach in my Inside Out program is you get a job description, you understand, you read it, but you don't work on to that position. You work on the God standards, the God that created eyesight, the God that created the body, how perfectly we are. That's what you should be working to. You got to find what you were designed, what you were brought here to do. You got to find yourself in Romans. You got to find your gift. And you got to work. Because you're responsible to train that up. Okay? You're responsible to get that trained up and get the knowledge because he holds you responsible because he gives you these gifts.
And ask God and seek God as to what is your purpose. And some people, have to seek him because they don't even know what gifts he put in the inside of them.
Don't even know they have a gift.
Sometimes people look at other people, want to emulate them and want the gift that they have, but they don't realize that they too have many gifts inside of them. It may or may not be the exact same gift, but nonetheless, you have one or some. I say some. I think God gave us multiple gifts.
There are 7 motive gifts in Romans, okay?
But hold on before we go there, because
gift and others are supposed to work at balancing.
Right. So guys, listen, we about to move a little faster because I said we could talk all night about so many things. So I want to cover just a few more nuggets as I call them. So some people I've heard who don't look like us, white Americans say that they don't believe systemic racism exists, or they don't think that it's as bad as we may or may not say that it is. I'm gonna start calling on y'all now and cutting y'all off. So we go so I can get these 4 last questions in. So Ibrahim, what do you say about that? Do you feel that systemic racism still exists?
Absolutely. To be in a position to say that it doesn't exist is a position of privilege that says that I'm not impacted by the oppression that the system produces. And so when we think about racism, classism, ageism, what has happened is people have found a difference that they can leverage to take that person's personal power. It's all about power. If you find anything about systemic oppression, you'll find it lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, pride of life. It is to subdue or to place an inferiority complex in the person that you want to subjugate so that you begin to look at their difference in a disparaging way so that you can steal that power. To each person, they were given inherent power, right? If God gave us the freedom and the liberty to choose, even to choose to serve him, whether to serve or not, and somebody puts you in a position that they restrict your choice, they now try to position themselves as your God. And so what ends up happening is they take truth and manipulate it. Truth manipulated is better known as lying. And so they lie and they subjugate and oppress. All you have to do is look at redlining. All you have to do is look at gentrification. All you have to do is look at how the educational system is set up. All you have to do is look at how the criminal justice system is set up. And so if people feel convicted and they don't want us to judge a tree, all we have to do, the Bible says, I don't judge not lest ye be judged, but I can definitely know you by your spirit, and I can look at the fruit that you produce. And the fruit that is produced is one that says if you're black, brown, or otherwise different from Caucasian American, then I'm going to find a way to subjugate your difference and take personal power.
Well, that's a great question, and I think most people might use the term and not really. And Brother Ebron just broke it down, and to keep it quite simple to understand the true definition of systemic racism, it's when any form of political entity can control a group of people based upon education, criminal system, like the brother said, housing, employment, where I work, where I go to school. That is systemic racism. And a lot of times in the conversation, you'll hear somebody say, well, black people can't be racist. We can't, because race is based on political, economic, socioeconomic power. We're still 13% of the country. So we don't have enough political connection. We don't control anything holistically. So that's what systemic racism is. Anytime a school can't get enough books, that's systemic racism. Anytime I can't find any jobs within my own community, anytime I'm challenged on healthcare issues, that is systemic. Anytime I got to go above and beyond to prove that I'm an American citizen, that's systemic. So, and this all goes back to the days of the Voting Rights Administration when King and those guys were marching. If you ever saw the movie Selma, once again, bringing up movies, they gave a great depiction of that. And this go back even to the days of the Civil War, when black men did, based on the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, gain the opportunity to write a vote and everything. But you're going to ask me, systemic, how many jelly beans are in this jar? That's systemic racism. Of course, I wouldn't know how many jelly beans in there. Well, how many senators and governors and how many men with the last name Johnson? That's a process of the system still being able to control you. And that's what we have to understand. How do we become better than the system? How do we defend or fight against the system? So a lot of people use it, but they don't realize. I teach my students, there's a chart that shows, Brother Nixon mentioned it, how the pie chart is broken down in terms of economics, education, entertainment. We don't control any of that holistically. When you look at the medium of entertainment, I disagree just a little bit with Brother Nixon. It has its benefits. It provides opportunities. But when it's misused in the form that it perpetuates a stereotype, that's when it becomes a problem and an issue. And I tell my students, be careful of that tell-lie vision, because it's telling lies to your vision. Then you begin to believe it, and you incorporate that into how you see yourself. And last thing on that, if a black child doesn't see themselves as being equal, let's go back to Dr. Kenneth Clark, who was instrumental in assisting Thurgood Marshall with Brown Board of Education 1954. He proved that black kids saw themselves as less, as inferior. So our children, if you bring up anything, and we know what it is, then I'm end on that note. Ask a young brother in the inner city what does he want to be, what he wants to be. He's gonna say basketball player, rapper. We have to paint a broader scope of young king, and that's where that history come in. You got so much more that you can achieve, but if that scope is limited, that in itself is systemic. You're the bad guy, you're the thug, you're this. So we got to break that.
I have another question for you, Mr. Nixon. For the gentleman who, and I'm gonna give this to all y'all. Got about 2 minutes each. So, Mr. Nixon, what would you tell a young brother, a young black man who has been pulled over, or who has some kind of running in with the law? How would you tell him to act or behave or conduct himself in that situation to not escalate it, and to keep themselves alive at the end of the visit?
So first, I want to respond to my brother. I don't want to be misunderstood. So maybe I did. I didn't say all media was bad or entertainment was bad. I wasn't saying that. But it's just like some people when they may eat too many sweets, right? And so because of that, they may be pre-diabetic and become diabetic. So I feel that people have to know how to use it. I mean, why would I know all the movies that you're quoting if I didn't believe in entertainment to some extent? I mean, we do need it. There's a place for that. But I just think there's in our community, sometimes it's a disproportionate amount of that. I deal with it all the time. You know, parents ask me, should their kid be, how can they improve in school? school, and I ask them how many weeks are they spending and studying, and what are they doing? And you both guys are educated, so you guys know the answer to that. Now,
looking at computers.
So I just want to clear that I'm an entertainment. I love entertainment, but I know how to channel it.
But basically, I think you were saying was that this world was not just for entertainment. Like, you have a purpose. Your whole role and purpose of life is not to be watching somebody else live life, and not to be watching somebody else skills and leveling up while you just sitting back watching it. Like, you were created to participate,
right,
and create your own.
It goes back to having a relationship with God and being complete with Him and letting Him build you up. It's escapism, is what I'm really saying.
Right.
People will use music and all these other things sometimes to escape and not deal with the realities of our life. That's really.
And I think, and you're absolutely right.
Entertainment is good, but certain individuals, it's like alcoholics. Some you just can't drink nothing. Like, you need to put it down all the way. And some people, if they eat too many sweets, they need to limit the sweets they eat. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's case by case. But back to the question on what I think. I really think a lot about this. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think about every time I hear about a young black man dealing with some abuse, brutality, or a killing. I do take data. I do take account, and I'm not saying it's the reason why it's happening. We know where it's coming from. It's coming from the enemy, and I believe reform should be reform. I think it should give people a chance no matter what they do. But I think first and foremost, like my fellow brother said, your hands need to be seen. But another thing is, I think before you even get in the car, I think we need to really talk to our kids about the young black men. We got to look at the numbers. If you took a survey on how most of them are dressed and how most of them talk, I mean, I'm a communications trainer, so I'm big on how you deliver. And even in the community, I'm not saying you need to talk like this or talk like that, but you need to deliver a certain way. And I think we need to really be careful. We need to not let the enemy, just so you guys know that I'm foundationally full of principles, God's principles. But I didn't want to make this about doctrine. So, but foundationally, I think we need to work on our temperament. Our young, we got to focus on temperament so that you're not angry. You don't have a shot if you got an attitude. Period. Because they're looking for a reason, and the law will back them. So my number one, and when I'm telling my kids to do things, I'm saying, first of all, number one, before you get in the car, I had your stuff already ready to be delivered. Have it in the visor or whatever, so you can have it ready. Have your hands right at that. And when you greet them. Hi, officer. How you be nice. Be nice. Put your flesh under subjection. Don't have an attitude. Be nice. Even when you don't feel like being nice. It's about flesh. Control that flesh. Be nice. Hi, officer. How are you doing? I got pulled over a lot when I was in high school and college, when I first got my car. I used to drive my brother's vets and all that kind of stuff. And I got pulled over a lot. But I had a good attitude. Hello, officer, how you doing? How you doing? Yeah, how you doing? What you do? You just got to no matter what they throw at you, but you got to come back. A soft word. But how do you handle a wrath? The word says with a soft word, right? So it's the same thing. You got to keep coming back with love. Keep coming back with love, and it'll increase your chances of getting out of that, coming out alive. That's all I got to say. You just that's what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
That's my answer.
Ibrahim.
Well, first of all, let me say that I think that this is a travesty that I have to educate my children to stay alive when getting pulled over by someone who is supposed to be a public servant there to protect and to serve and keep them safe. So first, let me just say that it is traumatic to our people to have this conversation, but we must have it, right? So the main thing is I totally concur with Brother Nixon about keeping a positive attitude. Let me also say that, and this is just where I stand, is that, we must also continue to carry ourselves with dignity. The only time that I put my head down is when I'm getting ready to pray or when I'm being a gentleman to a lady walking in the room and I tip my hat. So to live with dignity comes with a degree of self-awareness. And that is what I want my son and my daughter, they're not driving yet, but to the young people that I mentor and coach, to know who you are keeps extrinsic triggers from pushing you beyond where you desire to go. If people want to be angry, that is a party you'll have to attend by yourself, because that's not where I am. And I'm not speaking, and I can hear people echoing saying, well, Ibrahim, you don't know how to police officer. You're talking to someone who has been pulled over several times, where police cars will come in opposite directions, and pulled over by 8 police cars, for me and 3 of my cousins. And they, when they turn on the big light on the car, guns are drawn, and that is there to obstruct your vision. So what you do is you stay immediately still. I was on a trip where I was the only brother in the car, and I was there with some elderly ladies. It was a church trip. We were going for ministry business, and the sister didn't have her ID in the vehicle, so she got out of the car to go in the trunk, and he immediately goes into evasive maneuvers. And I laughed and joked because it was a tense situation. I said, now, you can't do that, because the first person they're going to kill is the brother. Do not do that. But what I'm saying is...
Like the movies.
But they say art is an imitation of life. Did I get that right? Yeah. And so when you think about what we are seeing, and I wasn't going to say anything, but you just gave me the alley-oop, so I'll go ahead and dunk it in my 2 minutes. That just give me another 2 minutes.
Right, exactly.
No,
all of y'all.
Yeah, no, but honestly, I pay attention to what movies are projecting especially when they're talking about technology, especially when they're talking about injustice that exists in America. Because when they talk about cloning, when they talk about all of these other things that are happening, I particularly pay attention to Will Smith. And if you think about all of the different movies that he's kind of acted in, it's kind of been a precursor to things that you're seeing, right? So when I see Gemini Man and I hear about all these things that are occurring, by the time that we get to, whether people agree or not, by the time we get to them actually exposing it, it's been happening for years, for generations. And I don't want us as Black Americans, African Americans, to think that this nation is just now coming up with a plan as it relates to how they're going to interact with Black and African Americans. This plan is, when you talk to Asian Americans, for their family, they talk about a 300-year vision. And so the vision for this nation is something that's already set up, and we have to figure out how to operate within the confines of what they've already pre-planned. And I know that doesn't sound hopeful, but it is a reality that I must present. It's a reality that I must present, because we would do ourselves. I have fought the machine. I've fought the machine. And guess what? The machine wanted to dictate to me, let me put you back in your place. Let me strip you of your job and your cars and your home. And I've been on the front lines of advocacy and the risk associated with speaking out. So I don't want to just mobilize people to speak out without cautioning them of the risk associated. But back to your former question. Tell the young brother, hands to be seen, dignity within your soul, so that you don't let anybody disparage you. Don't let anybody disparage you or move you to a place of anger that you don't want to go. Because their treatment of you is not a response to who you are, but who they perceive you to be. I believe people should be able to dress, wear, articulate in whatever way they desire to, as long as it is respectful. Respect is the name of the game. Mm-hmm. And on to my other 3 minutes. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I'm like, what?
Back to my next one. Give me 2 minutes. No,
Oh my gosh, we have to do this again. I wasn't ready for all of this. You guys have really shared a wealth of information, have opened my eyes and my perspective of that's why I wanted to have this, because I know what it's like to be a Black female all day, but I have no idea, and nobody else does either, in my opinion.
Nobody.
You know, they tell you, you know, what it might be like, or their experience this or they're not, until you actually be in that man's shoes and had a color skin that he had. You can't tell him what his experience is. You really can't. You will never know. So Red, what would you say again to young men about their conduct if pulled over by a cop?
Well, what I say and what I have said, I say to my son, I say to those young brothers that I mentor, and it goes back to what Brother Nixon said and Brother Ebron, it's just about being respectful. I think we have to teach our young men to understand, first and foremost, and this conversation doesn't come up, let us realize where we are. We are in Plantation America. I say that, Plantation America, because out of all of the nationalities and ethnicities that are in this country, we are the only ones who were stolen from our homeland and brought here. We were the only ones stolen. Asians came over, Italians came over, the Jewish community came over, everybody came over seeking that American dream. We were stolen, brought over, and tossed into the American nightmare. That wasn't our dream. It was a nightmare. So when you are conscious about where you are, even in 2020, nothing has changed from the first arrival of those 20 brothers and sisters in 1619 Jamestown to now 2020, 401 year later, nothing has changed. So what I tell them is be conscious of where you are, know, and be intelligent enough to know that I'm not playing a role. I'm being respectful. I challenge everybody to read, if you haven't, I'm sure you heard of the title, The Art of War, by Sun Tzu. It's strategies. So I call it the heart of war. I've been pulled over. Nixon's been pulled over. Never met him. Never been in a car with Ebron. But if you are a Black man in America, you're going to get pulled over. My son was 3 years ago. And I taught him, if we get pulled over, son, you don't move around. You don't brush your hair. We don't want that brush, that Diane that we all rocked back in the day to be mistaken for a 22. You don't want that. Be still. So we get pulled over, but it was in Detroit, and it was my fault. I'm not going to say on the air what I was doing because I don't want nobody talking about you shouldn't be texting and driving. So we're not going to bring that up. But I got pulled over with my son. But immediately, the first question he'd asked me was, one, Daddy, we going to get killed? I said, no, son, we're not going to get killed. That right there. So we're not going to get killed. I said, but you know what to do. And he sat there quietly. And how God works, I happen to know two of the brothers. One of them was a Brother Mason, Prince Hall, and the other one I met 3 weeks prior when I was working at Highland Park Schools. But they saw me. But regardless of who, I've been pulled over in Dearborn. So I got to say this because not all situations end up wrong. I remember getting pulled over in Dearborn. Once again, my fault. I'm flying home to watch a game. Officer pulls me over. I do not have my license on me. But my conduct is always, regardless of whether I have my license or not, be respectful. And it's not putting that person on a pedestal. I'm being respectful because this is who I am. And because I know who I am, I'm going to give that man the same respect I want him to give me. Now, if he goes off, the art of war teaches me I don't fight that battle in the car. I'm not going to win this toe-to-toe. Yes, officer, hands where you can see him. Take my ticket. We can go to court. But I've been pulled over and also let go. Maybe it's because of my conduct, or they think he's an articulate, intelligent Negro. Whatever the case is, you do not fight that battle out there. So that's the art of war. So I teach these young men, be respectful because that's who you are. It doesn't mean be respectful in front of him because now you're playing a role. You're the coon for, you know what I'm saying, the step and fetch and all that. Who are you? Because that's who you are, a king. And a king conducts himself in this manner. So I'm going to respect that cop, Black, white, Latino, because I'm a king. And if I've done something wrong, then it's about, as Brother Nixon said, accountability. You can't be wrong speeding, texting, drinking, driving. Then when I have an argument, some people can. We are not those people. So my thing is know where to fight this battle. If you know you got that ticket and it wasn't, deserved or whatever, you go fight that in court. But you take your ticket because he pulled you over for a reason, being black, you were doing something wrong. Those are the two. How many times have you been driving, Brother Ebron and Brother Nixon, and everything is intact, your license, insurance, but when they get behind you, you still feel some type of way like, what is this all about? Because that's the experience of being a black man driving. So my thing is always be prepared, have your stuff tight. Brother Nixon said it. Don't come out here driving dirty, and be respectful, and you'll be okay.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I hope I'm recording this. Okay, so one last question, guys, before we go. First, let me say once again, I thoroughly appreciate all of you taking the time out to roll with me for a little while and drop some good nuggets on all of us. From George Floyd to even opening up your own life and sharing your own personal experiences. That was going to be a question, but y'all went right on into it, so I didn't even have to ask, what was your experience like? So I'm glad y'all shared that. So my last question is this. We already know, aside of, what we're going through with the marches and the protests, and some looting and riots, whatever, but before all of that happened, we were experiencing something else in the streets, in the urban neighborhoods, with brothers versus brothers. What would you say to those brothers when you talk about respect? Because I believe each one of you mentioned the word respect. And I know how valuable that word means, especially to a man. And I know what it means to a black man. Okay. And of course, as a woman, but we're talking about y'all. So when we say respect in the hood, how do we change that narrative? Of course, we know we gotta reform the police departments. We know systemic racism exists, and we know that some people are acknowledging that finally now, and they're doing the right thing. Of what I said it in my last video, they're attempting or taking the first step to correct the wrongs that the ancestors did today. Okay, so we also have to own our stuff too, so what would you say to the young men who are out in the street in the urban areas, how to change that narrative around? It's time for that to change also. Along with those other things, it's time for us to if we asking others to have a certain level of respect for us, we also have to show it as well to each other. So without going down a dark, negative road, how do we change that narrative where you can see a brother and speak to him on the street and not want to, if he look at you wrong, or if he say something about your mama, or just whatever it is. How do we change that mindset? Because they need to wake up. Some of them, I don't think they're aware of the state of emergency for Black people right now. But what we were paying attention to, it's time to do away with that and really wake up and see what's really going on, so that we have the future that God has for us, for real, and be here to live through it. So I'll start with Nixon, and then if you want to share anything else, y'all got 2 minutes, okay, each. So if y'all are putting the timer on right now, if y'all want to, if y'all want to share, where they can find you, where they can follow you, or whatever your last nugget is. So I want you to spend 1 minute. Well, to go ahead and spend 2 on, because I don't want to shortchange that, because that's very important to end on that. So 2 minutes on that, and I give you half a minute on how they can follow you, or any last words you want to share. So we'll start with you, Brother Nixon.
Well, I want to make sure I understand the question, because you kind of covered a few things. Okay. So is this question to stop young Black men from fighting each other? I'm trying to Black doing things to each other. And just,
how we can turn that narrative around.
Okay.
Like, what would you want to share or say to them? You know, because we got the mic right now, and I know you guys speak on other platforms, but whoever sees this that don't know you in your other platforms and happen to see this video, what would you say to that young man that he can take back to the hood of how we can begin to transform and teach them to respect each other, and your little half a nugget of where you can be followed, and you know, whatever you want them to know about you. So you got 2.5 minutes to do both.
Okay. Solve life problem. I'm gonna solve this problem in 2 minutes. No, we work collective. I see this as a collective answer. And I think we all deal with, of course, with what we're all doing. We deal with black males quite a bit. And you know, at the end of the day, yeah, you know, if he's not saved, that's another issue. So, you know, so foundationally, where are you spiritually? But what I would want to do is do kind of an assessment of where he is and where his anger. Typically, there's anger and pain there, and so I'd want to do an assessment of really what's going on with him, and then kind of build a kind of a plan to kind of help him out and get him on his journey. It's a journey. Environment's important, and who's around them, and you know what's going on in that household, and a lot of things like that. Because you know what kind of, you know, is there a parent, and are they willing to join me and help in that? Because that's kind of, for my things that I do. I have programs that are they're paid programs. I believe you got to have skin in the game. I don't have a free program. I don't have a nonprofit where, you know, if we get to give kids for free and they get to come in for free. I have a program where they have skin in the game, because people respond differently. I find when they put more value on things, they got to put skin in. That's just my philosophy. And then because I do that, because I charge, I'm able to bring resources to the table that really increase my learning levels and give them more resources and give them more back, right? So for me, I'm about assessing where each individual young man is and finding where his pain is, and foundationally where he is spiritually, what's going on in his household, and that kind of thing. And then from there, I develop a blueprint. It's not one size fits all answer. You know, I think we sometimes we make a mistake of giving one shoe fits everybody. But that's where I would start. Assess the problem. I think you can never go wrong with finding out where the pain is coming from. And then they'll tell you where the pain is, and then you'll find out why they're willing to fight each other and why they're willing to kill each other. You know, so let's assess the pain. And the unsaved, they respond. They do things that Satan would do, right? So that's foundationally, that's where it is. So if I can find a way to kind of show them the way, this is a way to go. Are you tired of this lifestyle? Are you getting what you want from it? Most of them go say no. Are you willing to try this way? So that's I would deal with it one-on-one in that way.
What age group? What age group do you deal with your program?
4th grade. And by the way, the website is freshnation.net, and we started 4th grade. And we go all the way up to, you know, I work with adults too. I have an adult program. I have an adult reinvention program. But we're talking about young men, which is a real good one for me. I love that area. It's a special place to me. And I believe in, you know, kind of feeling that pain and finding where the pain is coming from and addressing that. And finding what they want out of life and helping them find a way to get there, because that's where it is. FreshNation.net, we start the 4th grade, we go all the way up. We're taking enrollments right now for our summer program and our summer camps. And we love young black men. And we have a program for women. We have a young lady program as well. And we have a program for adults that are looking to reinvent themselves in our Inside Out program, FreshNation.net. Did I do 2 minutes?
You know what? I was so into it. I didn't even care about that 2 minutes no more.
Yeah.
So look, okay, forget the 2 minutes.
I'm not a name dropper, but I'm doing this program with a few people. I'm doing this program with Les Brown, and you know, it's something that we've been talking about doing. We met in 2007 when I was working in radio and management. And I did a lot of workshops and seminars with him, and we just maintained our friendship. And then we recently got together, and I was getting ready to launch my campaign for the spring, and we talked about doing this summer and carrying it on throughout the rest of this time during this COVID-19 era we're talking about. And so what we want to do is really help people not only get back to where they were, but to get them further in the law and let them live God's purpose that God has for their life. And so we have a plan that's based in Scripture, but of course it's practical. It has practicality in it that'll help them achieve their dreams and their goals.
So do you think, Mr. Nixon, and you guys can add this on because I didn't gave up on the 2 minutes, but do you think that if when you mentioned fourth grade, I remember being an administrator at the same school. That's how I met these cool brothers over here off the side at the Cornerstone. And, they know how big my heart is, especially with those kids, because they had the same passion and love for these Black little boys and girls. And we just, we want the best for them. I mean, we truly, truly do, because as adults, we know what's ahead of them, And so I myself, and I know you guys feel the same way, want to instill pour into them as much as we possibly can to give them at least some kind of fresh start or some kind of stake in the game. And so when they're young and they're disruptive in class, and we all have experiences, what would you tell that single mother? And I know I'm going into another question, but what advice would you give that single mother who has that disruptive child, class clown in school? Do you think that pain is a cry out for help?
Yeah.
And what would you tell the mother who not just, he goes to school, but he got to come home too? How does she deal with that? How does she help him heal from that pain?
Well, first of all, Fresh Nation, we have a program for parents. As a matter of fact, we have a actual course, a Fresh Nation program. Once again, the website is freshnation.net. You can register there. We have a program where we're actually training parents about how to take our principles of our program and reinforce them at home. They have projects and assignments they have to do together. And we actually have them, kind of make a declaration that they're going to stick it out. So they can be part of our community of helping one family at a time transform their lives of their children. So yeah, we try to help bring the community together. So if it's the grandparent that's helping, we put them in there too. We put them in the program. And I want to say that's probably been part of our secret sauce for our transformation of our kids, is that we basically got our parent engagement is at a whole nother level. And I think a lot of it has to do with we just spend enough time really breaking down how it's worth it. And so whatever that parent may have to sacrifice, they have choices to make, but we show them the value of that sacrifice if they're willing to join us in participating in some of the assignments that they have to do. It's very interactive, and they actually be involved in it. Us, we just can't. We just really can't waste the time. We'd rather have another kid in that spot. Let me be honest with you. We're not for everybody. Our program's not for everybody. We gotta have parents involved in the process.
To me, and I'm sure everybody can concur, that's the only way it's gonna work.
Yeah,
even in the school system. Some of these.
I could have did a
No, I know.
8 years ago, but I decided not, because I didn't want a situation where I just had to take it. I just had to take them in.
Yeah, but my point is
my purpose.
Right. But I'm saying that even in a school system that, some parents just totally rely on a school system to teach them everything.
Yeah, that's your job. What they tell y'all, that's your job. Y'all supposed to
but that's not their job. That's not their job. And so when you say skin in the game and parent involvement, I believe that for education, strongly believe that in education. We know it now with on the lockdown, having a lot of parents having a homeschool. I said it in my last video that I am totally sure that parents have a newfound love and appreciation and respect for teachers after having them kids 24 hours a day for several weeks and months, and having to teach them, feed them, teach them, clothe them, and spend all this time with them, that they can't wait for school to start back. And so my point is that you have to do your part as a parent. You know, you can't put your child's future and well-being in the life of somebody else. You have to have your own skin in the game in raising your own child, you know. So I'm glad that you have a program that is built around their involvement, because they truly cannot be the person that they need to be without their parent, because they really are their first teacher.
You're right. If the parent doesn't want to be in a training program for themselves, then, because that's what we do. We really put them in a program just with their kids. They're in a program with their kids. They literally have to go through a program themselves, because what we're training them and what we're teaching them to do is just a necessary thing.
Well,
and that's why we have a program for both the parents. We have a program for the kids, and we bring them together.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Nixon. Those were, you gave some really good nuggets. I'm glad the Lord had you come and join us.
Oh,
so we're gonna have Ebron close us out. We're gonna go over to Brother Red. So again, of course, I didn't change the whole question. So let me reiterate. You're like, what's the question again? It was so juicy. I wanted more. Okay, brother. So the question is, what's the question? The question is, I look at Red.
How to stop brothers.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so Red, how do we, get the brothers to just learn to respect each other? You know what I'm saying? And not look at each other like the enemy out here on the street. Because we really not the enemy. You know what I mean? And so that's one part. The second part is, what would you give the single mother who has a child that is acting out, and she doesn't know what to do with him, and she definitely don't want him to go to jail or juvenile. So what tips, would you share to her? And then whatever tidbit you want to add at the end to close us out about yourself or how to follow you or whatever.
Well, I'm going to start with that one, how to follow me. I'm not a social media person. I don't have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you follow me, you probably see me walking down the street. You can get behind me. That's the best I can do. Other than that, I don't know what to tell you.
Is there a reason why? Is there a reason why?
I'm just not, and I'm going to answer the question going backwards. Never was just a social media person. It's funny, spiritually, I figure I got everybody around me that God needs around me right now. And I'm just not inundated with all that information. And I don't save this and save that. But I did write a book, kind of taking off from the Fat Albert, because I grew up on Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. It was entertaining and educational. I grew up on Charlie Brown, entertaining and educational, especially when Charlie Brown tried to kick the football and Lucy would always move it. Like, come on, why are you doing that to my man? So as an educator, and because this question can go all over the place, how do you do this, do that? As an educator, when I taught English, I realized when it came down to reading, our kids, there's no connection to what we read. I was in the 6th grade and I read The Great Gatsby, and I was going to Ferndale at the time, at 9th grade. And I wanted to prove, because I
graduated from
Ferndale. Okay, see, and I didn't. Okay, and when I got there, I didn't know who I was, and because I didn't know who I was, of course, in one of these English classes, I had to read The Great Gatsby. And because when we don't know who we are, we want to fit in. Like, to me, I read it. Why was that a classic? It wasn't a classic to me because there was no connection to me at all. So years later, as an educator, I realized our kids, and this goes back to Brother Nixon, he talked about starting at 4th grade. Well, I forgot the author's name, but there's a book, Conspiracy to Kill the Black Boys. About by the time they're in the 4th grade, as it relates to education, they're already educationally disenchanted. They already like, I've given up. If I'm not going to the NBA, I've given up. So to answer your question, that's a whole nother 24 hours. But I will go back to your original, who am I? And how do I answer that question? Sitting here talking to Brother Nixon, Brother Ebron, I realize we do many things. But if I got to answer that question now, I can simply say, I'm a child of God, once again, and I'm a servant. So what do I do with that? As a child of God and as a servant, he's going to put me in certain platforms, certain situations. You cannot save everybody. But if I'm in the school system, I'm supposed to be mentoring to somebody. I start a mentoring program. That is my responsibility. You cannot say you're a child of God or a servant and you're not serving. Everything else, writing books, doing this, doing that, that's just something you happen to do. But
Write plays as well.
I write plays. All of my plays have always entertained, but also given some type of message. Because with our younger generation, you can't just spoon feed it to them. You got to slide it in a little bit, slide it in, and they're laughing and joking, but there's something spiritual, moralistic about it. So to answer your question, I would just simply say, if you are a black male in a position to come in contact with other young black men, and we know when we talk about the history of how a lot of fathers are not in the household, we can point to a whole lot of factors. What are you doing about that? So start a mentoring program. That is your responsibility. As it relates to the single mothers, if you can't take all of the boys, point her in the direction of somebody that might have a program. Because a lot of these boys, when you think about it, especially those gangbangers, young brothers in the street, they're only doing it for what? Love, attention, somebody to call family. That's my family. That's my, whether you're a blood, crib, gangster disciple, you're doing it because you're looking for what you believe love is. So when you get an opportunity, if they don't have a role model in front of them, once again, you are a role model. If you're standing in front of somebody, especially if you're getting paid off of them, you have a responsibility. I hate to hear that, Brother Ebron. I ain't no role model. Then quit doing what you're doing. Matter of fact, we'll quit supporting you financially. How about that? So my thing is, you got to just step up and step in where you can. You cannot save everybody.
I
But
know, and I struggle with that so much. I'm like, Lord, why didn't you give me some kind of Marvel superpower where I could just, save my babies?
and always tell people this, think about it. It's always going to be always going to be poverty and crime and hate, because this is not heaven. And in knowing that this is not heaven, you have a responsibility, as Brother Ebron would agree with, to get those people who don't know about my God, who don't know about heaven. That's, if everybody was doing the right thing, there would be no need for servants. He didn't put us here because this is heaven. He put us here because it is hell. You're going to go through it, but what are you going to do about it? So if you're not voting, you're not leading, you're not mentoring, you're really not doing anything. So the only advice I can give to anybody listening that's a man out there, and let me close with this. You have men and you have males. Males are made up biologically, that because of their anatomy and all that kind of stuff. Males stand by and wonder, okay, what happened? And how did he do that? Men step in. And we have a whole lot of males, and this is why you have a whole lot of young men who don't know that they're men. They're just males, because you got a lot of males in front of them. So you have to be able to define yourself first with God. I'm a child of God. I'm a servant. That's what I'm supposed to do. So that's how I answer that question.
Amen. Oh my gosh, I am loving talking to y'all. All right, Ebron, take it. Okay, so Red, your mentoring program, can they get any information on that? Or
that's kind of weird. Okay, I teach at the Cornerstone High School right there on Southfield and 6 Mile Freeway. Old St. Scholastic.
Which I didn't know you were back there. So wow.
It's like the mafia. I tried to get out. Durant pulled me back in. I was like, no, don't want to do it. And he was like, let's go.
Ebron, are you there too?
No.
Nah, he's not.
Are you at Cornerstone?
No, I'm actually with DPSPD.
Okay. We'll get to you.
I love my Cornerstone family.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, I left after like 12 years, taught her. You hit that point where you're like, I've done all I can do. Okay, I'm tired of pre-K. I'm tired of middle school. And so I left, went to Highland Park, respected Highland Park. And then I came back and got into the high school. So here I am now. And the mentoring program is called YKD, Young Kings of Distinction. And I run it with a brother named Ramson C. He's the dean of students at Cornerstone High School. And Brother Ramson is my man. So we just stepped up. We don't charge. We just do what we do because we realize by serving, our payment will come later. So I wish I had a broader organization. If you happen to be a student, then you can be a part of a mentoring program. But, community service, going out doing what I'm supposed to do, That's if everything else happens to fall in my lap by way of you make a lot of money from your book, you're doing this, that's a benefit to what I do. But my responsibility, my ultimate payment is knowing that I'm out here trying to help somebody else and serving somebody else. So I'm sorry I don't have any. Follow me. I can make up something real quick. Follow me at Mr. Red Dot.
No,
You better
I got you. I got, you know, the sisters always got her brothers covered. So if you have more, if you are interested in any of the gentlemen's programs, please inbox me, message me, and I will get that information and get it to them. So if you mentoring program from anybody, because I know they all doing some stuff, I will get you that information. But I know Ebron is on some social media platforms, so either you can go through me and or Mr. Ebron. So close us out, Brother Ebron. Do you remember the question still?
I think I do.
Okay.
How do we confront? I see Brother Nixon is back. How do we confront?
I was here the whole time.
Okay. Look, no worries, because I text his wife like, "Where your husband?" She told me.
Oh, listen, they will make
I didn't miss anything.
Okay.
Okay.
I was making sure I didn't lose.
I just had to multitask. I'm getting ready for some stuff with campaign in the morning. That's all.
Okay. Well, we're gonna let you go after this last word from Mr. Ebron.
Okay, first, let me just acknowledge, Mary, thank you for having this awesome and dynamic conversation. I think that it is not just a good conversation to have, but it's a necessary conversation to have. And really, it is the impetus for more change, the impetus for more conversation. And to answer your question, how do we stop brothers from attacking one another? First thing that I do is I'm going to let that brother know that I love him. Black man to black man, I'm going to look you square in your eye with no other agendas besides to tell you that I love you. And I'm going to hold it in because that right there it is something that most black men have never heard from another black man without ulterior motives. I cannot begin to help this brother correct what's going on with him until I connect with him. And I think most times what a lot of elders do, and let me reframe that. Not a lot of elders. Because for me to be signified and declared an elder, there's a certain level of wisdom that you must have. Let me say older people. I think that we want to correct a problem that we're not connected to. And so that's why the younger generation has very little confidence in what we say, because we speak it from a preaching place as opposed to a relating place. Three things that we must consider when working with anybody, but particularly young black men, is identity, relevance, and belonging. If I can help you shape your identity based upon the highest truth, the highest reality, which is the word of God. It said God created you to be a king and a priest, that you're a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, called forth to show his praises in the earth, called out of darkness into his marvelous light. If I can tell you that you've already been accepted into beloved, if I can tell you that you are a king's kid, if I can tell you you are the apple of his eye, if I can tell you here's a starking truth that most believers don't want to embrace, but it's in the word, that you are a little g God in this earth, according to scripture. If you knew who you were by identity, then when I look at you, I see myself. Whether you choose to believe or not, whether you have come to the foot of the cross and accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior or not, you are still his creation. And when I sin against you, means do damage to you, I do damage to something that someone my God has created. So when I hear Brother Nixon speak, and I hear Brother Red speak, and I hear you speak, Queen, I get a chance to see God express himself in a way that only you can uniquely do it. And so first, I help him embrace his identity. And he won't even see himself differently until he understands. Because listen, I don't care, and I have mentored and talked to some of the hardest, hardcore criminals that you could meet. And the one thing that gets me an audience with them is that my motive is pure and authentic, and I love them. Now, I may not be able to say them to some people, I love you. I might say, much love, bruh. Or I might say, respect, bruh. Or I might hit him with the pound, or now we're hitting air pounds or whatever we're doing. But my motive has to be pure. And if you want to connect to young black men, the one thing about it is real recognize real. Mm-hmm. Game recognize game. And whether I'm formally educated or not, if I'm in a school of hard knocks life, my spirit of discernment is so strong that I recognize fake a mile off. That's real. So identity, relevance. The thing about the word of God is that it's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. But the method by which we speak it must be relevant to who we're speaking to. When we were talking to Romans, I was talking in Romans, talked about running this race, because that was the contextualization of who he was speaking to. Whenever he began to articulate, and even Jesus Christ, the woman at the well, he spoke to her in language that she understood. And so, yes, you have to be like Moses, the amalgamation of two strengths. Enough Egyptian to know the protocol of how to address Pharaoh, enough of a Hebrew to know how to pray to his God, unlace his shoes at the burning bush.
We done unleashed Pastor Ebron.
And then
that was good.
And then belonging. Like, how many people want the people that you're serving? How many people want those people to actually belong to their community? Mm-hmm. Because you don't necessarily. I see a lot of people serving, and so let me stay on this note. The people that you're impacting, you want to get them empowered to the point that they belong. And if they don't belong to you, it's not enough to love all children. You have to love black children. It's not enough to just love black children. You have to love black young men. And where God has positioned me is sometimes I may be the only voice speaking life to those young people, period. And so I am their support system. They can call me whenever they need to. Mm-hmm. And we all have our respective, you see the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, right? Everybody has their own role on how they do it. But when I talk to some young brothers, and this segues to your next question, is sometimes our young men are manifesting behaviors because even though the mother, single mom, may not be expressing the type of stress that they're under, I'm connected to my mama. My mama could be stressing right now about something, and she's all the way in Indiana, and I can feel it. Because that is my mother. Young men's behaviors in the school system, sometimes they are manifesting their inability to change their current environmental situations because the mother is experiencing the hard knocks and the stress of not having the support of their father. And when I help him know in my environment that I am the man of that environment, and you can afford to be a young man, you don't have to shoulder all the responsibilities, that I'm going to help you carry this weight, young king, and then you can be a child in my presence. Mm-hmm. Because outside of my school, outside of my presence, some of my young men can't afford to be children. And so when I give them the permission to tap back into the innocence that yet exists within them, I tell them, Brother Nixon, Brother Red, Queen, let's find your pain points and transfer them into PowerPoints. And I'm not talking about something that you put on the screen. I'm talking about transferring, let's make that pain, let's repurpose that. Your pain points, your potential points, your promise points, your purpose points. You know, a preacher got to have an alliteration. It's a must. Yeah, but
so where can they hear more from you? What are your social media platforms, and how can they join your movement or get in on what you got to give?
All right, excellent. So actually, you can follow me on Facebook, Andre Ebron. On Instagram, Andre_Ebron. Ebron and Associates is my actual for-profit business where we consult, develop, and support personal, professional, organizational transformation. So that is the whole coaching piece. That is the organizational piece where I can come in and speak. But if you're talking about specifically the movement of empowering our community related to young Black men, you can follow me at thedrawingboardnation.com. thedrawingboardnation.com. It's a book, The Drawing Board. It's on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Nobles. You can get it anywhere. It's a powerful, thought-provoking testimonial that challenges the reader to examine their life and reimagine the possibilities. You can also tune in every Tuesday. I am on Facebook Live as well as podcastdetroit.com with the Drawing Board Podcast, where we're there to inspire, motivate, and transform. We have 5 domains we talk about: family, relationship, ministry, community, and career. And the whole purpose of the Drawing Board Nation, it is a movement, Mary. And our goal is to create the experience that will transform the world.
I appreciate you. I appreciate all 3 of you. I'm so grateful and thankful. I had no idea y'all had all of that in you to share. We are way over time. So I totally enjoyed it. I didn't even notice, that time was slipping away. But Brother Nixon, did you have a website address or email that you wanted to share one more time?
Freshnation.net. Freshnation.net. At FreshNationEDU. That's our Twitter. And that's the best way to reach me. FreshNation.net. They can register right there and find out more about our programs, look at videos, check everything out.
Once again, brothers, I am humbly grateful to have been in your presence for over about 2 hours. It didn't seem like it to me at all. So I am thankful, and I really pray and hope that this is seen by a great majority, and that they take away what I call life lessons is nuggets. That they take away nuggets from each one of you, because y'all dropped some good stuff on us tonight. So thank you once again. And this won't be the end. We will come back again, hopefully on a happier note. Yes, sir, Brother Red.
I just created a website for myself. You can reach me at www.bet. Oh, that was already taken. Never mind.
Hey, let me say this. I am glad, Brother Red. Man, listen, I'm excited about your book, man.
Yes.
Oh, appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. I'll rap to you because I'm trying to get it in all the schools. So I've sold 400 copies so far. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
Absolutely.
Everything I need on the website yet. I'm trying.
Hey, and I'll promote it as well. We'll talk, and I'll take some pictures of it and put it up so those as follow-ups,
okay.
To our viewers.
They can still page me though, so I'm cool.
And Brother Nixon, brother.
Pardon me?
I said, pleasure meeting you, my brother.
Pleasure meeting both of you.
Nice meeting you, Brother Nixon.
Great, man. Definitely, man. Powerful brothers, man. I've enjoyed the journey.
I started to make a joke about that last name, but I left it alone. You can go with Richard or you go with Norm. So I said, I'm going to leave it alone.
you know I heard them all.
Right.
You know I heard them all. Elvis, Delvis, Richard Nixon, Mixon Nixon, Norm Nixon.
All right, guys.
Brother Nixon. Queen Mary, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, great job. Thank you for facilitating this. Awesome. All right.
All right.
All right.
Right.
All
Have a
right,
good
man.
evening, fellas. Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Well, that concludes the Becoming the Best Version of You with Gigi show. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us, y'all. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and check out our other inspiring videos. Until next time, toodles.